welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Julia. I'm about to become a fourth year at Edinburgh University. So I've been living in the city for almost 3 years now. I've gone through the moving process 3 times, and I'm not gonna lie, I really thought the last flat video I filmed would be the final one ever. I really did not think I'd ever be filming another Edinburgh flat related video, but here we are. I filmed a tips and tricks for finding a flat video a few months ago now. And I'm pretty sure in that video I specifically said like I never ever want to go through the flat hunting process in Edinburgh. I love my flat. Little did I know, a few weeks later we got evicted and I was in shambles, to say the least. It was a very big panic moment for me. It was very unexpected. That definitely took me by surprise. But at least you're getting a video out of it now. So I guess there's a positive to this whole situation. If you see me looking down here constantly, it's because I have my laptop on here with all the information about all the flats I'm about to talk about. So essentially the flow of the video, while all of this was happening, I documented the journey as best as I could. I was very much in a distorted, disorganized, hectic mindset. So there's quite a few clips and like gaps in the story, which is why I'm here now narrating it. But I will try my best to like include most of the vlog clips and like me talking from when this was happening. And I'll just be explaining all the things that are missing from my narration, if that makes any sense. I will be providing the rough location and the rent for each of the flats I will be mentioning. The only thing that's going to be kind of different is the way I was flat hunting this time around was I wanted to join an existing flat. I did not want to look for flats off the market because I've done that before and it's awful. It's very stressful, and as an international student you get discriminated against, from my experience at least. Did not want to go down that route. So all the flats I viewed were existing flats, which is a very different dynamic than one I had done in the past. That is also why I don't want to be very critical when it comes to the flats themselves, because I know there's people living in them. I'm very appreciative of the fact that like each of the tenants of the flats that I visited were like nice and gracious enough to invite me over to show me the flats, and I'm more here to like give a broad commentary and a discussion of my experiences looking for flats this time around. Like I'm not going to go into the individual flats and criticize them or like bash on them. First of all, that's not nice. That's not the point of the video. I will however criticize a few tendencies that I noticed throughout the process, but we'll get to those a little bit later. But yeah, I think without further ado, we can get started with the actual flat hunting process. Well, this is an angle I literally never filmed from. It all kind of matches up with the theme of what I'm about to talk about, which is something that I did not think I would be saying at all. If I had known what was about to happen within the span of a few weeks, like 5 or 6 months ago, I would not believe you. I would have fallen into a spiral of panic. This was not in the cards. I'm being so dramatic about this. I tried to film this last night, but I just got really emotional and sad. So I decided it would be better to refilm this clip from a slightly better angle. I'm moving. Literally did not think I would say those words. I have to move to a new flat for my final year. Don't want to use the word, but I'm kind of getting evicted. Yeah, the prospect of going through the flat hunting process again, especially since I had not anticipated this at all, very stressful, and I currently have no concrete leads about what could happen to me in the next few months. I've got the comfort of time. I've got around 3 months to figure this out, which is a lot more time than I had last year. Yeah, it kind of sucks that it ended up happening this way, but I firmly believe that everything happens for a reason. If anything, it'll just make me appreciate this flat and this living situation more than ever before for the next 3 months. I've actually got an essay to write. I've got a big deadline happening tomorrow, so I can't even think about looking for this flat now. I should probably also say, I think I've said this in every one of my flat videos up until this point, the flat hunting process in Edinburgh is so fast paced. It's insane. I found my flat within a week of getting evicted, and I wasn't going to move into it for another 3 months. Like, it's insane how quickly everything happens. So if you're currently looking for a flat and are stressed and worried, don't be, because every one of my flats for the last 3 years I've secured within a week of like proper intense flat hunting. it's really fast turnaround, and it's awful that it's so stressful, but like it's also kind of good because if you're in a desperate situation, you can very, very, very easily find a flat or a flat substitute. Okay, so let's take a step back. A few months back now was when I started filming this. Crazy. I filmed a clip like right after I found out I'm being evicted for sure. That clip is off. I don't think I'll be showing any snippets of that clip because it's very, very bad. I'm very emotional, I'm very sad, but I'm also like not saying anything concrete. I'm just very sad about having to move out. So I'll just flash forward to the next day when I'm getting ready to see the flat viewing for the first flat. I'm just touching up the makeup a tiny bit as I'm going to a flat viewing. I'm going to view an apartment that, I'm not gonna lie, I would really like to be able to live in that flat, purely because that means that I would not have to worry about the stress of finding a flat any much longer. I'd just have that sorted and it would be it. But we will see how it works out. Unfortunately, this is not fully down to me. It's definitely stressful, like as much as I'm trying to enjoy the process and just like take it one step at a time, it is stressful. Even though I know I will get something sorted eventually, I just want this over and done with, I'm not gonna lie. So, the first flat I viewed, at this point in time, I only had one flat viewing. So I was quite desperate at that point to have some sort of lead, even though I didn't want to admit it to myself at the time, but as you could probably tell, I wasn't fully feeling the flat. However, I will give you like background information about it. It was an amazingly located flat right in the center of Newington, and the rent was £610 a month. All the rents I'll be including are without bills, by the way. So it's just the rent for every one of the flats. No bills, no utilities, nothing. £610 a month, which is a little bit more than what I was paying in my old flat, but it was still one of the cheapest flats I saw this time around. So it was objectively a good location, decent rent. The room would have been a tiny bit smaller than my previous bedroom. It had a big living room, which my flat didn't have. It was closer to university than my flat was, but I just didn't feel it, and I really didn't want to admit it to myself, but I was not fully set on that flat, which is honestly in the long run kind of good because I don't think I would have been happy in it. I will say they also never ended up responding to me, which I think is kind of a shit thing to do, but more on that later. I barely left my flat viewing yesterday only to get a message about someone else potentially looking for a flatmate, and now I'm heading to another flat viewing. Everything's happening so quickly, but it's also so overwhelming and so stressful, and I'm really not enjoying it. I'm not gonna lie, I don't, lost for words. I'm not enjoying the constant state of stress that I am in. I would very much like to have everything sorted very soon and over and done with, because this is not something I want to be thinking about now. I've got so many other things to focus on. Yeah, so in case you can gather that from that very chaotic clip, right after I left the flat viewing from flat number 1, I literally 3 minutes after, I swear to God, like on the dot, 3 minutes after I left that flat viewing, I got a text from a friend about a potential flat that I could move into, and that felt like a sign. It was in Marchmont, which is an area that I love. The rent was $650, which again is a little bit more than what I'm paying, but it's like on average what you'll find at the current moment, I think. And if anything, this flat in particular, like, first of all, made me admit to myself that I don't want to live in Newington. No matter how petty or how stupid and irrational it seems, I just don't want to live in Newington. It stresses me out. It's very hectic. It's very overwhelming. It's very convenient, but like, I don't think that's worth the anxiety I get out on the street sometimes. So I just had to admit to myself, as much as it's an amazing area for most students, like it's a very studenty area, that's just not where I see myself living or where I want to live. So I think that flat in particular, getting that message right after the viewing that I was not very content with, really made me regain trust in the process and really believe that I was going to find a flat that I would love, even if it wasn't this one in particular. Good morning. Surprise, surprise, I'm going to another flat viewing. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I feel like I've been very all over the place with filming this. First of all, I've not really felt comfortable filming the flats, and I've always filmed clips of the flats that I'm viewing. Like, that was never an issue. Now I'm feeling very self-conscious about it. That being said, I will try to film something today. At the flat viewing I'm going to, it kind of brought me back to a situation last year when I was looking for my flat, when one of my friends commented on the fact that like you don't have to settle on a flat, like you do have some choice, even though it is stressful, it is so fast paced, like you do have some choice with which flats you apply for and all of that. And apart from like flats that are visibly like bad to live in, like ones with mold on the walls or holes in the ceiling, like those I didn't apply for. Other than that, I was pretty much down for any flat. Like the standards were pretty low. I'm really glad with the flat I ended up getting. Genuinely, this is my dream flat that I could have gotten. I don't know, all of that kind of happened coincidentally. Like I was kind of out of options at that point, and the fact that this flat popped up and it literally checked off all of my boxes was purely down to like the universe working some magic. And in some ways I thought this would go by a lot quicker, as in I would settle on literally the first flat I was given. But also everything's happening so quickly. There's such like quick turnaround. I'm really hoping to get everything sorted like within this week or next, because I genuinely don't think I can physically handle doing this any longer. But also I'm open to the other options because I don't want to settle on anything less than what I think I deserve. I've been thinking about it a lot. This is going to be my final year in Edinburgh. I want to be happy in the place that I'm living in, with the flat that I've got, with my room. And maybe that means searching a tiny bit longer. That makes it worth it. I'm running late, so I need to go to my flat viewing now. Okay, and on to the next flat that I was viewing. This was another management flat. Again, with each flat, we're getting higher with the rent. So this one was £670 per month. I think the room for this one is potentially a tiny bit bigger than the previous management flat. It also had a better location, better as in closer to uni, closer to the meadows. It had incredible views out onto the meadows, the bedroom specifically. I wasn't as keen on contact with the flatmates. I had some troubles with like people not being very responsive, and it ranged from people not responding like ever, as I mentioned with the flat before, but also with people who are like quite slow with texting, which especially with regards to flats really stresses me out. So that was not something I was very happy with. And also I remember there were quite a few changes with regards to like the viewing and the dates. There was nothing concrete really about like signing documents and stuff, which again, in my very stressed and overwhelmed state, was not helping me at all. And at this point in time, I was also getting loads of leads, so I wasn't really focused on any flat in particular. So I didn't necessarily have many strong feelings towards this flat. Like it was up there, but it wasn't my top flat. Okay, I've got another viewing today, even though I literally forgot about it. Heading there now. This flat viewing really brought me back. If you've seen any of my old content, especially my old flat content, you will know that I used to live in Old Town. And I kind of spontaneously booked this flat viewing, and I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of bad on my part, I forgot about it, but I didn't miss the viewing or anything. I went, I just remembered on the day. So that was fine. I didn't miss it or anything. I still wanted to give it a chance. Like I wasn't about to cross off a flat purely because I was seeing others, you know? So this flat, again, more and more pricey with every flat. This one was £700, which is so much money. The fact that it was Old Town really brought back some old memories because some things were different, but then like the bedrooms were very similar to my old bedroom. They were tiny. This flat had a much bigger living room than my old flat had. I also wasn't the biggest fan of living in Old Town personally. It was way too loud, way too overwhelming for me, and I just couldn't see myself living there again. I wanted to give it a chance, but I couldn't do it. It really like brought me back to a time of my life that I wasn't very happy in. It's another day, another flat viewing, multiple flat viewings. I'm supposed to have 3 flat viewings today. One of them has been cancelled. That's one thing to keep in mind, is that people are so flaky. I had someone message me a few days ago and they were like so on it, so quick to respond, like seemed very much interested. Like we fully had plans for today for the flat viewing. And then I got a message that was like, actually I didn't talk this through with my flatmates, so I don't know what's going on. And that is, first of all, not how things are supposed to go, but second of all, it's just one of those things that happened and it's so annoying. But all of that aside, I'm kind of in the comfortable situation that I've got loads of options. Like I've been to so many flat viewings this week. I'm kind of in a position where I'm able to be a little bit more selective. It's kind of annoying because the first flat is quite far away. I'll probably have to get the bus. That's already kind of crossed off for me just because I cannot be bothered to live that far. I'll give it a chance. It might be a nice flat. It's a decent price. Okay, I'm popping in between the 2 viewings. So this was Saturday actually. So it was like the end of the week, final 2 viewings I had booked. I wanted to pop in, talk about flat 5 before I talk about the last one. Purely because I have a lot of thoughts about this flat in particular that I did not mention. I was very upset when I left this viewing because I felt lied to. As I mentioned, the flat was quite far away. It was like far south in Newington essentially, which for some people is fine, but for uni purposes, I don't like taking the bus if I don't have to because they're kind of hit and miss, and I'd rather walk. Not a great option for me. What I was told initially was the flat was £570 a month, which would have made it one of the cheapest flats that I was viewing at the current moment. So even though I didn't really like the location, I wanted to give it a chance just because I was going to all the viewings. So I went all the way. I was going to get the bus, but the bus never showed up. So I had to walk all the way. This is what I'm talking about. So I had to walk all the way to the flat because I couldn't be bothered to wait another 20 minutes for the next bus. Only to find out that the rent was actually £710. But I wasn't informed that the rent was getting raised in June when I would have been moving in. And that really annoyed me. I didn't really like the flat in general. The room, as you probably saw in the clip, was tiny. I already said the location was quite far away, but the lying about the rents really upset me. That flat was fully crossed off for me at that point in time, because if you're lying about the rent, what else are you lying about? I just wanted to add that in because that's just a tidbit that like you have to bear in mind, is that people will ghost you, people will lie. Like it's rough out there, it really is, and that really upset me, and that kind of set my day off to a bad start. Okay, I'm going to one more viewing today, and this one I'm actually quite nervous about, purely because I really like the flat and I've got high hopes for it. And I'm not gonna lie, for each of the flats I've viewed so far, there's always been like at least one tiny thing that made it not perfect. And I've just got such high hopes for this one. We'll see how it goes. I didn't end up filming any other vlog clips after I went to flat 6. And there's a very specific reason for that, because I got home and I had a meltdown. I was very upset that evening. I distinctively remember coming home after that last viewing And despite what I said in that final clip of like to keep a distance from the flat and all that, inherently I was really hoping that that final flat, the 6th flat, was going to be my flat. But then I went to the viewing and something was off, and I cannot say what it was because the people were lovely, the flat was beautiful, the rent was good. It was a Marchment flat for £570, which made it literally one of the cheapest flats, if not the cheapest flat I viewed. It was very close to my old flat. On paper, it was perfect, which is why I think I had my hopes so high for it. And then I got home and I was so sad, and I cannot say what it was specifically about the flat that made me sad and made me not want it. But I just knew intuitively that something was off, and I cannot say what it was till this day. I remember just getting home and not knowing what to do. I called my friend, almost in tears, being like, what do I do? I hate all these flats. I don't want to move into any one of them. Met up with her. I was very upset about the whole situation. Basically said that I don't want to move out. She basically told me not to settle on any one of the flats that I viewed. And very depressed me, went back home. I got myself a pizza, which was depressingly small. I don't know how they got away with like a teeny tiny pizza I paid £8 for. And I kind of gathered myself. I had 6 flat options, which were decent, and I needed to kind of gather myself, kind of form a sort of plan of action of how I would react, because I would be hearing from these people within the next few days or weeks. And I created a ranking, and I'm really glad I did film all the bits and clips. I don't have many, but I filmed a few clips from each of the flats, and I looked back on the photos and things. I created a ranking of like what flats I would like the most, what flat I would like the least. Try to guess which flat was number 1. I put flat 2 as my first choice, which was very surprising to me because for that entire week I was absolutely certain, up until I went to the viewing, that flat 6 would be my top choice. That was a very depressing outlook to have, because that was one of the first flats I viewed, and I actually hadn't heard back from the girls for like, at that point it had been 3 days. Like, it wasn't that long, but like in Edinburgh moving time, it was a long time. So I was not anticipating hearing back from them. Deep in my heart, like once I had everything out on paper or out on my notes app, I knew in my mind like what I wanted, and I felt like I kind of had a plan of like, depending on who responds to me, I'll be able to respond adequately, because if someone from like the flat that's 6 on my ranking responds, there's no point accepting that flat because I don't want to live there, you know? So I had that list, put it aside, got back to being very stressed. But I had to go to work the next day, so I guess I put the stresses aside. I didn't have any more flat viewings. I think that's why I felt so defeated that evening. And then the Sunday, the day after my breakdown, I got a text from the girl from flat number 2, and they had accepted me. It was such a happy moment. I think I screamed, I think I cried, I think the customers at my work thought I was insane. That is the flat that I'm moving into. It is actually the most gorgeous flat I've ever seen. And I cannot believe I didn't jump at the chance the first time I saw it. If you're currently going through the flat hunting process, especially in Edinburgh, I know it's rough, but trust me, it will get better soon. Also, learn something from me. Don't settle on the first flat. If you're feeling instinctually that this flat is not right for you, go with your gut. Yeah, and if you're interested in more flat content, stay tuned. It will be coming. And if you're interested in more flat hunting content, I've got so many videos over the last few years. All those will be linked down below. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my future videos. Bye.